Where you been shot at, sir?
On my arm.
Okay, Bart, who shot you?
I don't know.
I blame them for me being in existence. I wanted revenge for being alive.
We're not asking them to forgive him or to let him go. We just want them to let him live.
Wednesday, December 10th, 2003 was supposed to be a special day for the Whitaker family. They had just learned that their eldest son was going to graduate from college, and they decided to go out for dinner and celebrate. But when they returned home that evening, a gunman was lying in wait for them. He opened fire, hitting all 4 family members. But why would he do that? This is the case of the boy who hired a hitman to kill his mom and little brother for inheritance. So you guys, sometimes looking through and making videos on all these gruesome topics can get a little exhausting. But in my spare time when I'm not making videos like this one, I absolutely love playing this new game called Storrington Hall. In the game, you play as the daughter of a family that has recently inherited a mansion. The daughter's name is Jane, and you get to follow her adventure through this romantic and fantastical journey. You do this by solving puzzles to uncover who Jane really is, whose affairs she's involved with, and ultimately the truth of her character. One of my favorite aspects of the game is the mansion itself. It sure needs a little bit of work when Jane's family moves in, but you can customize and decorate it to your unique taste. I mean, come on, who wouldn't love to have their own mansion? And the satisfaction doesn't stop at interior decor. You have so many outfits to choose from that you can wear to parties and balls that you will be able to throw. These days, it's so hard to catch a break. Trust me, your girl knows how stressful it can be. But with Storrington Hall, it gives me the perfect activity to do when I need a little bit of me time. So if you guys have been searching for a perfect way to relax, look no further than the description of this video, where you can find the link to download Storrington, or even better, just scan my QR code right here, which will give you a bonus for all new players, including 6 hours of infinite lives. Don't let me stop you. Download Storrington Hall now. The Whitakers were what you'd call a picture-perfect family. The dad, Kent Whitaker, was a successful accountant, while the mom, Patricia, was a former elementary school teacher. The two had been married for 28 years and had 2 sons, 24-year-old Thomas and 19-year-old Kevin. The family lived in a huge mansion in the posh, upper-class neighborhood of Sugarland in Houston, Texas. They were well-liked by their neighbors, who described them as the kindest, most generous, loving, and outgoing family that you'd ever meet. Their home was a gathering spot in the neighborhood where everyone would just go and hang out. The eldest son, Thomas, or Bart as he was popularly known, was fun, witty, and respectful. He did well in school and shared a passion for biking with his father. The younger son, Kevin, was sensitive, kind, and popular. He loved his family and looked up to his older brother. On the fateful day of December 10th, Bart called his family and told them that he wanted to take them out to dinner to celebrate because he had just finished his final exams at Sam Houston State University. This was really great news for the family, and they all went out, had fun, and celebrated Bart's achievement. They even took pictures and gave Bart his graduation present, an expensive Rolex watch. Little did they know the horror that was waiting for them at home. After dinner, the Whitakers headed home, but before they opened the door, Bart remembered that he had left his phone in the car, so he went down the driveway to retrieve it. At that moment, Kevin opened the door and saw the gunman. Before he could even react, a bullet hit him in the chest and he fell down. His mother was next, and she was also hit in the chest and fell next to Kevin. Kevin rushed in to see what was happening, and he was also hit through the right chest and arm.
At that point, I called out to each one of them, and the only answer I got was some quiet, wet coughs from Tricia.
Bart came in at this point, and he reportedly started fighting with the shooter. After a short struggle, he was also hit in the arm. Despite his injury, Bart managed to call 911.
Okay, where you been shot at, sir?
On my arm.
Okay, Bart, who shot you?
I don't know.
When the dispatcher asked him what he thought the race of the shooter was, Bart said that he was black. A neighbor who heard the gunshot sounds also called 911 to report the shooting. Sadly, by the time the paramedics arrived, Kevin had already succumbed to his injury. His mom also died while she was being airlifted to the hospital. Bart and his dad were the only ones that survived. The news of what had happened shocked the entire community. How can such an awful thing happen in Sugarland? And who could do something like that? Kevin was totally devastated and angry. He wanted nothing more than to catch the killer and make him pay for what he had done to him and his family. But he also prayed that God would give him the strength to forgive the person responsible.
And the moment that I did ask him to help me forgive, the strangest thing happened. This warm glow flowed over me just instantly. And I looked at my heart and I realized that desire for revenge had gone.
At the moment, he had no idea that the person he would need to forgive was actually someone he loved and trusted. Patricia and Kevin's funeral was attended by more than 1,000 people who came to mourn and comfort the family. At first, investigators believed they were dealing with a burglary case gone wrong, but then they started noticing some suspicious things that seemed to disprove this theory. First, although the drawers in the house had been pulled out, consistent with a break-in, they had not been ransacked, and everything inside remained neatly intact. Everything else, including things like jewelry and electronics that you'd expect a burglar to take, were still there. The only item missing from the house was actually Bart's cell phone. Pretty weird, right? Then there was the murder weapon, a 9mm handgun, which was found in the kitchen. It turned out the gun was registered to Kent Whitaker. The gun safe, which was located in a very discreet area in the house, had been pried open. Investigators scanned the crime scene trying to find clues that might help them find the killer, but everything led to a dead end. The shooter had been extremely careful to leave anything behind that would incriminate him. No fingerprints, no DNA, no nothing. The only palm print that was found on the gun was too small to be useful. It actually looked like the killer would get away with it. Since Bart and Kent were the only witnesses to the crime, investigators went to interview them to see if they could remember something that would help in the case. But nothing. And then investigators noticed a weird detail in Bart's story that did not make sense. Now, Bart had told detectives that he was about to graduate from Sam Houston State University, and that's why he had taken his family out to celebrate. That was a lie. As it turns out, Bart was not even enrolled as a student in that university. Some reports say that he was actually freshman on academic probation. But why would he lie about something like that? Bart told the police that he lied because he didn't want to disappoint his family, and that the stress from school had gotten to him and he needed a break, which actually makes sense. But now the police were looking at Bart a little suspiciously. Then, 5 days after the shooting, someone came forward with a shocking revelation. The person happened to be an old friend of Bart called Adam Hipp, and he told detectives an extraordinary story of how Bart had approached him 2 years earlier with a detailed plan to finish his family. Adam even drew a diagram for the detectives to show the plan in which he was supposed to shoot Bart's family members and then shoot Bart in the shoulder to throw off police. Bart's parents apparently came to know of the plan and they confronted Bart about it, but Bart allegedly told them that it was just a misunderstanding and he would never do something like that. Now, this information was enough to make detectives start looking seriously into Bart as a suspect.
All those little pieces sent off bells and whistles in our heads, is thinking, we need to start looking at the son.
Meanwhile, Bart was living with his father, playing the good son, and spending his free time studying the Bible. He did this for 7 months. And then in July 2004, he told his father he was going to a club with some friends and would be back the next day. But he never came back. Instead, he went to Mexico and started a new life in a town called Caravallo, using the name Rudy Royas. He used the $7,000 he'd stolen from his father to get an apartment, got a job at a local furniture shop, and even started a relationship with his boss's daughter. He stayed there for over a year and made up a story about being in service in Afghanistan to explain his gunshot wound. Back at home, investigators had managed to track down 2 of Bart's closest friends and college roommates, Chris Brashear and Stephen Champagne. At first, the 2 denied having anything to do with the crime, but after a while, Stephen cracked and told the police everything that happened on the night of December 2003.
What was Bart's part in the plan?
Pretty much set it all up.
He was trying to get them all together kept saying for his graduation from college.
Stephen told detectives that he was the getaway driver, Bart was the mastermind, and Chris was the shooter. Apparently, Bart had told them that his family was worth a lot of money, and he would give them a cut of the insurance money if they helped him kill them. So, as the Whitakers were innocently celebrating Bart's fake graduation from college, Stephen was watching them from a car in the parking lot. Meanwhile, Chris entered the house using the key that Bart had given him, disabled the alarm, and waited. When the Whitakers came home, he fired at them using the weapon he'd stolen from Kent's safe.
In a minute, Chris came walking out to the car and got in the back seat. He said that Bart's brother had walked in first, and when Chris shot him, he said before he shot him, he thought he smiled.
Stephen told detectives that he and Chris had thrown a bag full of evidence off a bridge into a nearby lake. A police dive team was able to retrieve the soggy duffel bag, which contained several pieces of incriminating evidence, including Bart's cell phone. In September 2005, both Stephen and Chris were arrested and charged with the murder of Patricia and Kevin. That same month, Bart was also arrested in Mexico and handed over to the U.S. authorities to face his charges. Bart would later say in an interview that the reason he wanted to kill his family was because he felt like he didn't fit in and that his parents didn't love him.
I blame them for me. I blame them for me being in existence. I wanted revenge for being alive.
In March 2007, a jury found Bart guilty of the capital murder of his mother and brother, and he was sentenced to death by lethal injection. The gunman, Chris, was given life in prison without parole, while the getaway driver, Stephen, received 15 years in prison. Despite everything that Bart had done, his father still forgave him. He stayed by his side through all the hearing and even tried to persuade the jury not to deliver a death sentence. And even after the sentence was passed, Kent continued to visit him in prison and worked tirelessly to have it commuted.
We're not asking them to forgive him or to let him go. We just want them to let him live.
On February 22nd, 2018, about 40 minutes before his scheduled 6 p.m. execution, Bart's death sentence was commuted to life imprisonment without parole by the governor, who said that he didn't want Kent to feel victimized again. What do you think about this case? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and if you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. So, if you guys have been searching for a great way to relax, look no farther than the description of this video, where you can find the link to download Storyton, or even better, just scan my QR code right here, which will give you a bonus to all new players, including 6 hours of infinite lives. Don't let me stop you. Download Storyton Hall now.